Good morning, everyone. This is Ramajan and Catherine Carrigan with What is Social Media Today, teaching you how to win the game of social media. Today, we have a special guest, Mindi Rosser, and her social selling ideas, which really are the basis for what we've been teaching for the past 6 months. So we're really happy to have Mindi along. And with that said, I'm going to turn this over to Catherine to do the real intro, and then Mindi will do her presentation. Thanks for showing up today, Mindi, and sorry for the time zone shift.
So we'd like to welcome Mindi Rosser of MindiRosser.com. And that's MindiRosser.com for all of you out there listening. And Mindi is a social media marketing guru. She is a graduate of Seth Godin's Alt MBA program. And she started her social media training with social media powerhouse Star Hall. She has, like many of us in this program, she's had a varied career. She started with a paper route and worked in retail and worked in New York City urban missions, in social services, in rehab centers. She's directed a fitness center in a retirement community. And after moving to California, she really got into social media. So today she's going to be talking about social selling, which is what we all, at the end of the day, want to do. We want to sell our books. We want to sell our products and services. Welcome, Mindi. We're really looking forward to hearing what you have to say.
Thanks. It's great to be here, and I'm really excited to talk about social selling. I guess it's one of my favorite topics, and I will share my screen in a minute here and walk you through. But I guess I'm curious to know what you think of what social selling is. So if you could type that into the chat box, how would you describe social selling? When you hear that term, maybe just a couple words that come to mind, and pop that into the chat because I'm curious. Everybody seems to have a different definition. Selling your books, products, and services through social media. Yep. I think that's definitely what comes to mind for me too. It's just, how do we do that effectively, and how do we do that without coming across as like a salesy, sell pitch, because really it comes back to one-on-one relationships and connecting with people. All right. Well, I'm going to share my screen here. And I apologize if I have background noise. I have children in the background. Okay, can you see my screen? Yes? Okay, great. So social selling and making social work for your business. So that's the topic of today. And first, we'll dive into this. When you hear the term social selling, I feel like I get this look a lot from people. They just they have a puzzled look on their face, and it's just, what really is social selling? I feel like people throw the term around and either don't know exactly what it is, or think they're doing it, or wonder if they're doing it, and what exactly it means. So it is no longer enough to just invest in doing social media marketing and hope that everything's going to work, and just hope that inbound marketing strategies are going to generate leads for your business. So we really have to be more proactive. And that's what I think the difference is with social selling, is it's a little bit more proactive than just social media marketing. So that's how I would distinguish the two. So what we want to do is to take those leads and turn them into qualified prospects and eventual buyers. And it does take a process, as you know, with social media and marketing. It's a long process. It's not a quick win. And I think a lot of people make the mistake of thinking social selling is almost like a cold call just on social media. And that can be a big problem, because that will turn off your buyers. So that's not social selling. So basically, social selling is more like developing a relationship with your prospects, with your buyers, and then moving them along through that buyer's journey. All right. So what's in it for you? What are we going to talk about today? By the end of this webinar, these are 3 things that I'd like each of you to feel confident in. first thing is understand exactly what social selling is and what it's not. And we'll touch on that more, I think, in the Q&A as well, just really getting your questions answered. And then taking 3 steps to become a social seller. So we'll start with just 3 things. There are a million things you can do to improve your social selling skills, but we're just going to do 3 things today. And then let's get those questions answered, because I feel like that's one of the biggest things for people is really being able to ask questions, get them answered, and to figure out where to take it from here. All right, so what is social selling for? This one can be a little bit tricky. Yes, it's for selling your products, but it's also for developing relationships. It's also for getting word out about your products, your services, your books, your message, and connecting with people. I see social media as very much a one-to-one channel. I think a lot of people see it as a one-to-many, where you're broadcasting messages and just sharing your stuff. And social selling is much more of a two-way interaction. You're actually engaging with people. You're almost like a salesperson interacting with a buyer. So that's how I would view social selling, is you're really talking to people, you're really doing a lot of listening, a lot of two-way communication, not just sharing your message and hoping that people respond to it. 75% of B2B buyers use social media to research vendors before they make a purchase. So that means even if you are in a B2C company, or even if you're a solopreneur, a small business, doing marketing, you still are getting looked up on social media. One of the first things people do when they hear about you is they try to Google you, and then they also try to see if you're on social media. And when they Google you, your social channels are some of the first things that pop to the top of that Google search. So it's really, really important that they know who you are and that they can see what you stand for and that you're there on social media. As you know, we all have to be there. We have to be engaging. We have to be present and looking good online. That's very, very important to social selling. So what exactly is social selling? I guess if I had to boil it down to a short definition, it'd be effectively using social media to connect with prospects and buyers. That's as simple as we can make it. It really is that simple. But in practice, yes, there are a lot of tactics. It can get complicated. There are so many different things that you could be doing on social media to do social selling, but that's the basic definition. And what it comes down to is marketing precedes sales, and it's no different online. We know this, doing social media, we have to start with marketing and then move it into sales. So when people come to know you and they like you and they trust you, then they start making inquiries about your services, maybe about collaborating with you, and other opportunities come your way. But you have to be there. You have to be known. So they have to see you. They have to start liking you. You have to be a little bit likable. And they also have to trust you. So what you're saying has to resonate with them. And when they see that social proof, which comes from having a strong social media presence, they're going to start doing all 3 of those things. And I think social selling is a bit of a mindset shift. It's approaching social media with the intention of connecting with your buyers versus just sharing your message. So you're really going onto social media thinking about who you can connect with, what connections can be made. It's not a shotgun approach. It's very laser focused. You're very, very focused on making that connection, connecting one-on-one with people. And I feel like social media marketing, in contrast to that, is more about your online presence and raising awareness, whereas social selling is more about how is this going to generate leads for your business? How is this going to get those leads to sale? And next, this is a really good quote that I came across. And John Ferrara, he's the CEO of Nimble, and I'm not sure if many of you have heard of Nimble, but Nimble is like a social media CRM. I love it. It's great for small businesses and entrepreneurs. And I feel like John really gets it when he talks about social selling and how basically it really comes back to when you're making a sale, you have to get to know your customers and meet their needs. And because we have social media as one of our tools, we can do that through social selling. So that's how I feel like social selling really is becoming more mainstream and people are understanding it better and getting more of a grasp and just applying old principles that we know work to new media and using it in those ways. So let's talk about 3 ways to becoming a social seller. So the first thing that comes to mind for me when I think of social selling is LinkedIn. And you may or may not be big on LinkedIn. It depends on who your buyers are. So I feel like a lot of B2B companies and B2B people feel like LinkedIn is where they do a lot more of their social media and business and social media. But whether you are in B2C or B2B, LinkedIn is the place for you to be, and you have to have a good LinkedIn profile. So I feel like the foundation of a good social selling program or being a great social seller is having a good profile. So I'm actually going to take you into my LinkedIn profile here, and we're going to look at just like the bare bones to building a good LinkedIn profile. And then I also have a template that I'll share after the webinar, and it's a really great tool to use if you don't really know where to start with your LinkedIn profile, and it will touch on all of the things you look at in the profile there. When you log on to LinkedIn, the fastest way to get to your profile I find here is in the corner. And so the first thing people are going to see when they come to your profile is your headline. So that needs to be spot on. And what I like to do and what I recommend people do is really share your value proposition in that first line, because that helps people know what you do, what you stand for, and how you're going to help them. So how are you helping people? Put that in your first line. So how I help people is I help systemize social selling and social marketing programs. And so that's how I help. And then who do I do it for? So you notice for B2B companies, and where on LinkedIn and Twitter, because those are my two big channels, and why, and that's to accelerate sales cycles. So you can kind of see the formula there, breaking it down. The headline is so important because that's what people are going to see when they land on your profile, and it's going to make them either want to connect with you right away or think that you're a good person to connect with. You give them a reason to stay on your profile, look at your profile, and scroll down. Okay, the next thing you'll notice on the profile is you'll see the company that you're working for, any education, your area. That stuff I feel like is not so important. You don't have to focus on that as much, but this next section here, your summary, is really important. And with the new LinkedIn interface, you'll notice that you will only see 2 lines here, and people actually have to click see more to scroll down. So you want to be sure that these 2 lines make people click the see more section, so they'll scroll down and look at this. So this is the second most important part of your profile, is your summary. So you want this to be packed full of good keywords and how you're going to help people. So use this section as a way to expound on your headline. So I talk about social selling, and then I share some social selling tactics to get started here. So it's more of a resource than like a summary, executive summary of my resume. So you want to change over to being more of a resource than a resume on your LinkedIn profile. And then you'll notice I share some tactics, and then I have like a closing summary, and then how people can connect with me. So you want that to be in this section as well. And then the specialties is just a really good area to put any keywords that are important for you in LinkedIn, because people are searching for you based on keywords. And when they type these keywords in, if they are in your profile, people will find you. And that's what you want when it comes to social selling. And then you'll notice you can also include some media here. So if you have any blog posts, any links, any videos that you've done, you can include those here, even PDFs or white papers. So it's really good to provide social proof here by including some things there if you have them. And then the other section I'll touch on briefly is this articles and activities section. With the new LinkedIn interface, it's really important that this section looks current. And so you'll notice that I have right here is my LinkedIn Pulse article. I try to publish once a month, and it can vary based on your industry what's a good rate of publishing for you. I would recommend once a month or once a quarter if you can repost an article here. And this article is actually just taken from my blog and republished here on LinkedIn. So it's one way that you can repurpose content, but it also shows that you are a thought leader on LinkedIn when you publish content here. And then you'll notice the activity section. These are things that I've engaged with recently on LinkedIn. And so I think of activity on LinkedIn as a way to brand myself, as a way to connect with people and do social selling. So when you're commenting, when you're liking, when you're sharing, people will come and see this here on your profile, and they'll say, oh, this person actually engages with people on LinkedIn. They're not just sharing their own content. And when these topics are relevant to them, then they're going to trust you. So you're going to get that whole know, like, and trust you feel on your profile. So just by engaging on LinkedIn. And we'll talk a little bit about that more later. And then one other section I'll touch on here is the experience section. With the new LinkedIn interface, you'll see that this experience in this section, it doesn't have all of them open. You have to actually click to open the rest of them. So you want to make sure that very first section is really good, and make sure that's your most recent, most engaging thing. Because I know many of us have like side hustles. So I have a couple different profiles where I have present, so I'm still doing my MindyRosser.com, but my main gig is with the conversion company. So I put that at the top and then put Mindy Rosser here. If I wanted Mindy Rosser to be the prominent one, I would switch the sections, because only one is going to be visible without clicking them open. So make sure this is another resource section, and where you really talk more about your company, if it's your company or your brand, or other things you want people to know about you and how you can help them and what your company does. And then you can also include some media here. So those are the main sections of LinkedIn. We could go deeper into this, but I'll shoot over that LinkedIn profile document after the webinar, and you can give that a look. So I feel like that's the very, very most important thing when you're doing social selling, is give your LinkedIn profile a refresh. And it probably will take you 90 minutes to 2 hours, just depending on how much you put into the LinkedIn profile, but it's well worth it, because people will see you and you will stand out. And then the second thing would be optimizing your Twitter profile. And I'm sure most of you use Twitter. If you're with what is social media today, you're using Twitter on a regular basis, I'm imagining. But your Twitter profile, a very important thing is that your Twitter profile has to match your messaging and the look of your LinkedIn profile. So you will notice that my Twitter and LinkedIn look very similar. I have similar imagery here. I use some of the same words, but you'll notice it's also a little bit different, because you have to change your wording a little bit based on the platform. So let's take a look at my Twitter profile here. You want to make sure you have a very good image at the top, and I pulled this one from my website, so you'll notice that it matches all the way across. So it's just providing that consistency for people. Subconsciously or consciously, they're going to notice when they come across your profiles. And then you'll notice I'm using the exact same picture as I'm using on LinkedIn, and I try to use the same picture across all of my channels. I feel like that's important. It's good to have a pinned tweet here. So whatever you're trying to promote, put that at the top and pin it to your profile. And you'll notice it has something to do with social selling, because that's what I'm really strong in. And then you'll also want to pay attention to your profile over here in Twitter. I actually am experimenting with adding emojis, because I feel like it adds a little bit more fun and personality to it. I may keep the emojis, I may not. So you can feel free to tinker with this and change it up. I like to change my Twitter profile about every month or so, just to keep it interesting for me and to see if any of these keywords attract different prospects, or if the emojis make a difference. So it's kind of fun to play with those. And if you include hashtags here, it makes it so people that are searching for these hashtags will find you when they search for them on Twitter. So that's why I include hashtags. And you could include more hashtags if you like. I just try not to go too hashtag crazy on my Twitter profile. And then you'll notice that a lot of the tweets here, there's like a good mix of retweets, and all of them follow a similar posting format. So make sure you figure out whatever your posting format is. So I usually like to use like the title, the link, who it was written by or who shared it, and then 1 or 2 hashtags. So figure out whatever your posting strategy is, and then stick with it and be consistent with it, and your Twitter profile will be pretty much optimized. So that's a brief overview of Twitter. So in conclusion, you want that the cohesive brand experience between your channels. So making sure everything's looking good online. And then the last thing to beginning with social selling is you got to start listening on LinkedIn and Twitter. I think most of us get that we need to be sharing things on social media, but we don't always understand how we can listen better, because good listeners are going to make the sale. So here are a couple of things that you can do on each channel to become a better listener. On LinkedIn, read through your LinkedIn news feed every day, and you'll see that right when you go to your homepage. You want to make sure you're looking at this and looking for ways to engage. So scan this every day, and even if you just spend 5 minutes scanning through once or twice during the day and seeing if there's something that you could comment on, because there might be a connection in here that would be very important, that could be a prospect or lead you to a prospect or a collaboration opportunity. And then joining LinkedIn groups, I feel like this is still important. LinkedIn groups are not as popular as they were 1 or 2 years ago, but the ones that are still active, and there are many of them because there are a few million groups on LinkedIn, there are some, I would look for the top 5 to 10 LinkedIn groups and join those, and then listen. Do a lot of listening in those groups. See what people are asking in discussions, see what people are commenting on, and even if you don't decide to post your own discussions, just go there periodically, once or twice a week, just to see what's happening in those LinkedIn groups and see what people are talking about, because that will help you understand your buyers a little better. And then check your notifications. Each day, make sure you're checking these, because you'll see that you can wish people happy birthdays, congratulate people for starting new positions. And I feel like this is an easy way just to keep up on certain people in your network, because maybe you'll look at this and say, oh, I haven't talked to Ian in a long time. Maybe I should reach out to him. So just checking those notifications every day is a good way to listen on LinkedIn. And then with Twitter, some ways that you can listen on Twitter would be to create Twitter lists. And this is to follow your prospects, your buyers, competitors, and just see what's happening on Twitter. I feel like Twitter, there could be a lot of noise, and it's hard to cut through everything and really cut through the noise to hear what's happening on Twitter with your buyers and prospects. So creating Twitter lists is a really good way to cut through that noise, because then you're only following what's happening with the people on those Twitter lists. And then a social listening tool that I really like is called TweetDeck, and I'll show that to you really quickly here. And this is a way that you can cut through the noise and do some really good social listening, and it's free. So it's by Twitter, so it hooks in really nicely with Twitter. And you can see you can have different columns based on what you want to follow. So in this column, I'm following some hashtags. This is a Twitter list that I've created with some industry luminaries, industry peeps, which are my friends that I try to keep up with. And then other hashtags I like to follow. Social ROI, and then my messages, other activity, and you can really get creative in TweetDeck and make it a place that's enjoyable to go to, and where you feel like you're seeing the conversations that you want to see and not just whatever's popping into your Twitter feed. So that's pretty much it with the 3 things to getting started with social selling. And in conclusion, I just want to remind you that social selling is a 2-way conversation, and that always emphasize more social and less selling when it comes to social media, because people really don't like to be sold to. Hard selling on social media is a big no-no, so never do that. And just realize that social selling is a lot of fun because you're getting into that conversation. The pressure is off. It's a great medium. People are a lot more open on social media than they may even be in person. So it's a great way to explore your buyer's interests, get to know them, and really make an impact. And I think that takes us to the questions, Q&As.
Thank you, Mindy. That was a great, concise presentation. You covered many things that we've been talking about to our group, and you added some real insightful tips for us. I'm going to bring down this presentation and bring up another computer, so I'm going to disappear for a second.